I want to show you one thing today. It's a trick that may answer some questions regarding the shading and lining and everything whenever it comes to dealing a trauma to his skin. So we need a needle. The needle itself, not a cartridge, so we can trash it. I take a needle and we do the same thing like the machine actually does. So we do pierce the skin with the pigment on this needle. So let's say I dip it to brown here. So nothing special. Needle, ink, and skin. So I stick it here. When it's in, I remove the ink. You may see it's right there in the skin. So technically it should be delivered. The pigment should be delivered in the skin already. But if I remove it and wipe, there is nothing. Just tiny red spot because of trauma. Because the needle actually deals trauma, it causes redness, and nothing else happens, right? But if I do the same thing, I dip it to the ink, I stick it to the skin, I remove it, and again, I wipe all the rest of this ink, you can see that now it has ink delivered right to this spot. It's right there. So I did the same things, but the difference is like obviously visible. This one has no pigment. This one here has like one solid spot, like a dot with brown color. To prove it even better, we had the same thing, like exactly the same thing right here just a couple of weeks ago, and even the healed version seems absolutely similar. Let me take the pink. So this one right here has nothing. You may barely see a spot right there. There's just something like a redness, which is almost gone. It's getting better because there is no pigment, and this redness after trauma is getting better and just it's gonna be gone in a couple of weeks. But this spot has actual pigment right here in the center, and it's gonna stay forever. So, and knowing the difference between the spot that has no pigment and the spot that actually got the pigment delivered may help you a lot. Let's move to the whiteboard for explanation. All right, let's consider the scheme here before we discuss the needles, because that's like one single needle. So whenever we have just anything like round liner, magnum, or round shader, we have a cluster of needles, and I am talking of one single needle, like that, this tiny boy. So every single, I don't know, cartridge or needle, it's a cluster of some amount of tiny needles. So that's one tiny needle, and there is no matter if it's supposed to be round liner or magnum, it all works the same way. So that's the skin, the pink color. This is the needle. And this needle has black color, black pigment on it, and it's about to pierce the skin. So before we actually pierce the skin, all the colors are here on the surface, and right after it's actually done, when you pierce the skin, you see that all the pigment is collected here now on top, and just the very few pieces are inside here, like here, right? So far it's quite clear, because whenever you do a tattoo, you see that the spot you're working with is just full of leftover of ink, and it's just a mess, and it's okay. But the magic happens when you take off the needle, when you take it out of the skin, and yeah, let's just simply remove it here, for example, and say that the needle is up again. So then we have some sort of a hole, which just the same shape as the actual needle. And the thing is that when you remove the needle, this hole, before it actually shrinks, because hole is going to be closed, it shrinks, but at the very moment before it shrinks, it tries to fill itself with anything. Usually it's supposed to be air. So saying simply, there is vacuum inside of this hole, and before it tries to shrink, it needs to drag down just anything. And as long as there is no air around, because all this air around is blocked, because this hole covered with pigment, there is no way to fill it out with anything but pigment. So pigment goes down simply because there is inside of this red hole, there is vacuum, it just drags down the pigment, and then when you wipe the rest of unnecessary pigment, you see that there is something stuck already. So you don't deliver at the first place when you just pierce the skin. The pigment gets to the skin when you remove a needle. That's the thing. So now you know, when I stick the needle first time and I washed out the ink, there was nothing to drag down into this hole. And the same way I tried to stick the needle, but I washed ink after I remove a needle. So when I remove a needle, there is pigment that goes down. So that's the difference. Okay, now knowing this thing, you can implement it, because while you're shading, you need to pay attention to the amount of pigment that you keep on top of the surface of your skin, not as much as amount of pigment inside of a tip. So whenever I shade it, you see that after I touch the skin, it leaves some amount of pigment on top here. So, and the rest, the leftover, is inside. And you need to keep in mind that this ink right here is much more important rather the ink that you have left over inside of a tip, because you can't deliver that pigment, you deliver this pigment to the skin. What it gives us? So it gives us a chance to get back for the same spot. Look again, I don't wipe the thing, all right? I go the same, stick it back again, right to the skin. The best way, if you can cross it, like I was going that way first time, then I turn my arms and I go just all the way back in the opposite direction. It's not necessary, okay? So if you may just simply use the same portion of ink just once and then just go the same way, it's already better. It's already okay, just like perfectly if you can switch the direction. However, keep tracking the amount of blood, because check that. Here, you may see that red bubbles are appearing. Yeah, here, it's getting more and more. I did not deal that much of trauma right now, just barely touched the skin. So, okay, it's just better to show it once again. So if I touch the same spot that already had some trauma, yeah, let's say I do it just the same way, the same direction again, and I wait. Now the blood will appear much faster. Yeah, here it is. Tiny red bubbles are appearing. And I would say that's okay. You still keep working with this portion of pigment. You can stick it back and use it again. And usually, if you see no blood, sometimes it's because of the color. If you work with dark, something like black or very deep tone, it may just change the blood itself. And even though it has some blood pieces on skin, it just changes the color because of the pigment. But when you take something lighter, which is actually a good idea, let's switch for the light pink, and you shade light pink, you may see the blood much faster, I believe. Light colors do not change the color of the blood. Blood is darker, so it's more, yeah, here it is. Here it is, now it works. You see the blood appears even after the very first touch. So the thing is that if you see too much of blood, like, let's wait a bit, yeah, like that, I would say like that, you don't use it again. So you don't stick the things back there, because you better not to take a space inside of a skin with blood. The blood itself is not a problem. His body will never react on his own blood. It's all okay. It will absorb it and just spread, and all is fine. You're just taking the room that's supposed to be taken with pigment, and come on, you just don't fill the skin with enough of pigment after all. So you wipe it, take the fresh portion of ink, and then work again. That's the thing. And you need to keep in mind that if you see blood bubbles on top of this pigment, that means there is more blood underneath, and you better to wipe it. So again, if you work with darker colors and you see, yeah, let's have a new rule. I never thought of that. It's like very first time I'm trying to put all the thoughts together just to explain just to anybody. And I think let's keep it as a rule. So if you see small amount of blood on a dark pigment, you better to wipe it. And if you work with light pigment, the blood will be much more visible. So you will see it very quickly and recognize that this portion of ink is already like gone bad, you wipe it. So again, if I take something in between, because now I need to connect the colors, I take the dark and light colors together and I shade them. So I have some sort of some timing that I can use this portion again. So I turn my machine and I go all the way back again quickly before blood appeared. Still no blood. I can even work a bit more. Just like that, and wipe. Perfect. But sometimes I had questions from customers. How can I see through this mess when everything is covered with pigment, with ink, and I work just through it because I don't see any borders, any lines, or any parts of actual picture. I just can work without even watching on it because it works. It's very difficult to explain because I think it's a passive skill that appears in your head. Just you are gaining this experience and you can keep tracking the shape of a piece you're actually working with without even seeing that piece. It's like a virtual map you have in your head because once you looked at a piece, you're okay, let's go. And then you shade it, you cover it with all the pigment and everything. You don't see that, but you kind of remember the borders, you have to work in. And I don't know how to deliver this knowledge. I think it's a matter of experience, but there is no any different way I can explain that. I don't know, guys, if you were wondering about today's project. It's a white dragon. I tried to make it as light as possible, so my idea was to use light gray wash, as light, just the lightest one I had in my wagon, and the majority of the things is quite fresh. Even this one is 2 weeks old. It's not as light as it's supposed to be. It's gonna be even lighter than it is right now. And this one just a couple of hours old. You see how big the difference is actually. It's so dark and messy. This mess is going to be gone. It's supposed to be, let me show you like that, for example. This one is a couple of months old. That piece, you see, it's soft, it's clean, it's light and beautiful. So that's how the shoulder is supposed to look. And the sleeve itself is quite finished. I would say 99%. I have a couple of things that I would love to touch up again and rework, especially the main thing that annoys me the most is a sphere. This sphere is, I don't know, in my opinion, it's way too light. It's like a cluster of light things that is collected together, and it's not okay. It's better to be dark. This glass has to be darker because original idea was having just a transparent glass that you can see through. Here, you can see part of a dragon through this glass, but I don't know, it feels like not a good choice after all. I just want to tint the glass and make it darker. And one more thing, just quickly about the taper, because it's important. If you use wrong taper, you can't reach the result you actually want, and why it's not working, why there is a huge texture I don't like, or why I cannot just shade properly because I can't deliver the pigment. I have to get back to the same spot just over and over, and I just damage the skin, but there is no color in it. So if you use long taper or medium taper or short taper, you will receive different holes because you don't pierce the whole needle. You usually use, let's say you use the very tip of the needle. So if that's the skin here, you'll see that the same length of actual hole gives you different shape of a hole because this is long and it's very thin and the hole is actually smaller. This hole is bigger with the medium taper, and short taper gives you even bigger hole. And the thing is that as bigger the hole, as more powerful this vacuum force it creates. So that way, when you remove a tiny needle, you barely drag down anything out of the surface. But when you remove the short taper, you can massively get a portion, a big portion of ink immediately. That's why you see such, a brutal texture after every touch with the short taper. But frankly, I don't like short tapers. I work with medium tapers. That's my favorite. And curved magnums. Curved magnums is my the only needle I use. I mean, only magnums I use. So flat magnums with all the needles straight, and soft magnums when you have round shape of placement. So this and this, my choice. At least I can recommend it. I don't know if you guys like it or not, because I've seen not many, but some others works with flat or with long tapers and their tattoo are brilliant. You never know, but for me, that and that is the best. But just like a needle size, the consistency of the ink may significantly affect on the amount of pigment the skin receives with every single pierce. So let's consider it with one of my favorite colors. It's Deepest Red from World Famous. I use it like almost every single at every single project I have. So, and originally this color is very thick. So one of the thickest colors in my palette, and you may see it if I just fill out this cap. It feels like oil rather than water or something. And yeah, let's fill out this one too. But let's make a bit of a difference here. I will add solution to make this one a bit thinner, and I'll mix it just with a couple of 2, 3, 4. Yeah, might be enough. 4 droplets. I'll mix it, and the consistency of this pigment will be different. But even though it's different, the color is absolutely same. You may see no difference between those two. It's like both deep red tones, and nothing, like visually nothing is different here. Okay, now I want to repeat the same actions with the different types of ink. So the first one is like just an ink without any solution, without just anything. So as thick as it was originally. So I do it like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, if I clean up a needle and take another color that has a couple of droplets with solution, it will work differently. So check this. Yeah, you see it's even more liquid and just leaking away. Anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the difference is huge. I've been working the same, I provided the same pressure, I was working the same speed, the same amount of time, just 5 seconds or a bit less. But the difference is huge. You may see that the one with the bigger concentration has less of pigment delivered. However, the one with the less concentration of color was better delivered to the skin, so feels like higher concentration, which is logically makes more saturated picture works worse, rather one that was diluted with water, which is illogical, but it works like that. So it's all about the balance, because if you keep the ink just as it is with the pure consistency, just originally, it leaves the most saturated, beautiful color, of course. But if it's not working, if you can't deliver this color, you obviously need to mix it with a solution. But at the same moment, as more solution you mix together with the pigment, as less saturated, less vivid and beautiful the color is after it's healed. Because fresh, it looks brilliant, it looks the same as like a normal original consistency of a color. But keep in mind that every drop of this thing will potentially reduce the saturation of the healed picture. So you need to add one more drop and more one by one, just to find when it actually starts shading properly, and keep it like that. Don't add anything just in case, just like that. No, it's a bad idea. So in the best, in the perfect world, you never use this thing. You take a color, you shade it, and keep it just like that. But of course, if it's not working, you add as minimum as possible. All right, that's pretty much it, guys. Let me know if you have any questions, because some of the themes I'm talking about are not quite easy. And if something is not really clear, just write a comment down there. I will answer everything, because after every fresh video uploaded, I'll be there for a couple of days answering all the things. And yeah, that's it. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell, and bye-bye.